your kind of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, Orange Walk and Kaya on the top list of dengue cases. We'll tell you what the Vector Control Unit is doing to control the disease. Belize's energy level with Comisión Federal de Electricidad is reduced. This is causing energy failure across the country. House burns down in San Pedro. And Belize retains the rank of Tier 2 in the U.S. State Department's 2023 Human Trafficking Report. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Friday, June 23rd, 2023.
Now, the hottest match of the evening. Get ready for action. Here they come. Amazing. They're unstoppable, unbeatable. They have them on the ropes. The beat rises to the top. 1, 2, and 3.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
Fire up the taste of Belize with the new Chiladas crunchy tortilla taco chips in its hot chili flavor. Fiery habanero brings the heat.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
From Snackers, done right, done here.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
Good evening with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. As we have reported, Belize recently achieved the certification as a malaria-free country after several years of commitment from key stakeholders, including the Ministry of Health and Wellness through the Vector Control Unit. Now, while Belize has not reported a case of malaria in several years, the same cannot be said for dengue, which continues to affect the country on an annual basis. Though the country has not experienced a serious outbreak since 2019, cases have been on the rise in various parts of the country, including Cayo and Orange Walk districts, where the most cases have been reported since the start of the year.
If you look at the Orange Walk district, we're seeing a lot of cases in Orange Walk town. The data that I have up to last week was showing me we have roughly 20 cases confirmed in town. We have 12 in Guinea Grass Village. We have 11 in Trial Farm. We have a few in August Pine Ridge as well. So I think that those are some of the areas that we're focusing on. We're taking a close look at some of these at some of these communities. Out west, we're looking at Benque Viejo, right along the border, San Ignacio, Santa Elena, Bully Tree Falls, Cristo Rey Village. Those tend to stand out a little bit, but so I think that we wouldn't want to just pinpoint only those, but the district itself needs to be on alert.
As we enter the rainy season, the Chief Operations at the Vector Control Unit, Kim Bautista, says residents must take it upon themselves to help with the eradication of vector-carrying mosquitoes.
As we enter the rainy season very late, and as we approach the further into the hurricane season, for householders to start doing their own cleanup, and if necessary, to organize within their respective communities some cleanups as well, because these containers are out there, and they're what is driving this. So you look at so many tire shops all around, improper, not tires just discarded improperly. These are massive breeding sites, and so we even the town council needs to be cognizant of some of these things, that um, getting on homeowners to assist with cleaning up in front of their yards. I mean, it doesn't take the town council to tell you that you need to keep the drain flowing, keep in front of the yard clean and stuff like that. These are all things that are contributing to dengue transmission in the district, and so we should, you see, it's a shared responsibility, and us as the householder, we need to ensure that we're doing our part on the ground.
As the body responsible for prevention and control, Bautista says the Ministry of Health continues with efforts to control the mosquito population across the country.
The Ministry of Health now we continue our operations in terms. I am sure you guys have seen the truck spraying and in the evening and morning times, trying to do some adult mosquito control and things like that. But at the same time, you're spraying. But if you have these containers out there in numbers, then you have mosquitoes basically hatching every day. So we need to do our part in terms of that cleanup as well.
As the period of higher transmission for dengue is normally within the rainy season, Bautista says residents must be able to recognize the symptoms
Dengue normal
in stopping the transmission.
Dengue normally starts with a sudden onset of fever. The fever tends to be consistent. You're looking at least 3, 4, or 5 days of fever, and as I said, it's consistent. Some persons will experience a rash on the skin, um, headaches, pain behind the eyes, joint pain. If you're experiencing fever and you decide, well, I will take maybe something for the fever, some Tylenol or something like that. If the fever persists, then more than likely it is a indication of something worse. So I think if we visit the facility and if we get tested at the facility, then we are alerted more in a more quick fashion that we'll be able to respond timely. So some persons might self-medicate for several days. And of course, they're still going around. Some still try to make it to work. Some are still going out, and you're just helping the transmission to continue. So it's very important that persons are aware of these symptoms. As I said, these symptoms are very common in the first 5 days, and around day 4 to 5, most patients would move on. They either go into a recovery phase or they would go into what you call a critical phase. So, for persons that have had dengue in the past and there is dengue going around again, there is the possibility to be reinfected. And that second infection sometimes increases the risk for dengue to be severe, where you end up with hemorrhagic fever, and that can be fatal. So it is important, and around that day 4, day 5, around that transition period, you either start recover or things could start taking a turn for the worse.
Anyone who believes they may be infected by dengue is advised to visit the nearest health facility or contact the Ministry of Health and Wellness. For several weeks, Belizeans across the country have been experiencing various power outages at random times. Representatives of the Belize Electricity Limited have gone on record to state that the power outages have been caused by an increase in the demand for energy supply, mainly due to the recurring heat waves affecting the country. Earlier this week, BL notified Belizeans of a situation where the Comisión Federal de Electricidad, CFE, in Mexico, which provides energy to Belize, has confirmed that it is experiencing generation power outages due to the high demand for power in the Yucatan Peninsula. As a result, Belize's supply will be reduced to between 0 megawatts and 10 megawatts at certain periods of time. Belize's current system demand on the grid is 106 megawatts. The total available in country supply is 107.5 megawatts. And if any losses are sustained to the generation at this point in time, there will be power outages. BEL recently held its yearly general meeting for 2022 where these matters were discussed, and today Chairman of BEL, Andrew Marshallek, gave the media a breakdown of what to expect as it relates to energy in Belize.
The situation that currently exists is that we have been unable to meet extraordinary demand for electricity during the recent heat wave because we did not have access to the amount of electricity needed to meet those needs. In other words, the supply of electricity to BL was not sufficient to meet the needs that customers were demanding. Now we recognize that the heat wave caused an unusual spike in demand, and that accounts in part for the problems that were experienced. In fact, the heat wave was not confined to Belize. It extended into Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, and they, of course, were experiencing similar high increases in demand and similar problems to their provision of electricity services, which in turn also impacts us. As you're aware, just about half of the electricity supply needed to meet the demand of customers come from Mexico. The longer version of the explanation is really that the process that's in place for us to identify and secure additional generation capacity in Belize has been failing us for the better part of the last 20 years and must be fixed going forward. Now, I just would like to make clear that BL is confident that we will manage through the current situations. There might be one or two outages, but there's no serious threat to any prolonged outages at this time.
With an expected drop in the amount of power provided by CFE, Marshall says Belize needs to look at other options, including local energy generation.
Given the way we see things going, the way we project growth in consumer demand, there will soon come a time when we're not able to so manage demand.
Recording in progress.
Unless additional capacity is in fact put in place, additional generation capacity. In the short term, to shore up things, BL will be looking to procure some portable generators to shore up power generation in areas of high demand and in other strategic locations. And in the longer term, within the next 12 to 15 months, we'll be looking to provoke the construction of generation facilities that are currently in the pipeline, but have seemed to become stuck in there for one reason or the other, and are taking too long to come out the other end. So we need to provoke those constructions. And specifically, we're talking about 2 solar farms by Bakul, one in Chanchen, one in Moscow, that has been on the table for very many years and really needs to happen yesterday. And 2, the construction of rice generating plants in southern Belize. That's a reciprocating internal combustion engine. And that's been on the table for many years too, and just can't seem to come out the other end. With regard to the latter plant, we have made contact with NGC, the National Gas Company, who had made a bid on the last occasion the rice plant went out for request for proposal to inquire if they're able to still deliver on a plant within the next 12 months. Apart from the 2 solar plants and the rice plants, we have also been engaged since last year in the upgrading of the GT facility at Mile 8 to increase capacity and to change the fuel that it will use to generate electricity to gas. We believe that if these 3 facilities, these 3 increased generating capacities, or 3 ways of increasing generating capacity can be achieved. That is the establishment of the 2 solar plants of Bakul, the rice plant in the south, and the upgrading of the GT within the next 10 months. Then if there's a heat wave next summer, we'll be in a far better position to be able to handle demand. as well as to handle the increased demand that we expect over time as Belize grows.
Now, while the profit of the company saw a reduction from 2021, Marshall X says the company remains profitable and the concern remains on the adequate supply of energy to the grid.
Profits are not the issue. In the COVID year, profits were more than double that, 40 million, and the year before came down to 35. This year it came to 15. What accounts for those variations are really differences in the cost of power that we were able to secure through lower prices from Mexico. That situation, as I've just pointed out, is now changing. Mexico is facing their own supply constraints, which has resulted in correspondingly high prices. But separate and apart from the price issue and the profit issue is the issue of the availability of energy altogether for us to use. The simple fact of the matter is that we've been placed on notice by CFE that owing to increased demands in southern Mexico, they will have difficulty continuing to supply us at certain times. Now, the relationship with Mexico is a very good one and must be preserved and protected because we rely on that source of energy to supply your demand, consumers' demand. So this is not in any way a reflection. What I say is not a reflection on them. What it is that we must plan for those eventualities if and when they take place. And there were 3 occasions on this week alone where we could get no power from CFE. So that it highlights for us the need to start securing in-country generating capacity to meet our needs. On those occasions, when Mexico, with all their goodwill, isn't able to help us with power. So I say this again to direct you to the issue at hand, that it's not available cash resources. The issue is available power. Even with all the money in the world right now, and BRL is not short of money, we can't buy the power because the power is not there to be sold to us.
Part of the National Energy Policy 2023 also seeks to integrate distributive generation within the country's power grid. This plan, according to Marshall, may help with the issue of energy supply. However, the topic of contention with this method remains in the price.
Can produce power for us on a utility scale as well as on individual scale by way of a smaller scale by way of distributive generation, which is what you described, post-up solar issues. The utility scale solar is by far the cheaper way to go. That is where you have a solar farm, acres and acres of panels, and that power is put directly onto the grid, and then you access power from the grid in the usual way, and are billed in the usual way. That is very much on the table and is in our plans over the next 5 years. The plan calls for a considerable amount of utility scale solar to be put in place. The first 2 plants by Bobcol that I referred to are utility scale solar plants. An 8 megawatt facility at Mascal and a 7 megawatt facility at Chanchen. And you might ask why Chanchen and Mascal? Is that the farms are to be located next to existing BL substations where the connections into the existing grid can conveniently be made. With regard to distributive generation, putting solar power on your rooftops, the issue with it is regulatory and one of pricing. And those draft regulations have been with the PUC for their consideration and action for some time now. As you will appreciate, households putting power on the grid requires certain infrastructural adjustments. And I'll just explain it to you the way it was explained to me. For instance, when a linesman goes up on a line to make a repair, he needs to be sure that the line is dead. And if the power is coming from all directions and all ways, there need to be certain switches and infrastructure put in place to make sure that when you hit the switch, the line is dead, it really is dead. Somebody doesn't get killed. So it needs an infrastructure that needs to be put in place. But apart from that, and that's not prohibitive, I mean, the technology, they know how to do that, it is not an issue.
At this time, however, BEL says Belize is at the point where energy generation is a must if prices and supply are to remain stable in the coming months.
BEL is not interested in generation. What we're impressing is the need for generation for you to continue to enjoy the electrical energy that we distribute. If it is that the generation cannot be otherwise provided, as it hasn't been, then BEL, if it hopes to stay in business, will have to go into generation because we have to have power to sell to you. Just like you need somebody to produce it in order for all these services to be enjoyed. So my long answer to the question that we faced was to suggest to you that the process that's currently in place to identify and secure additional generation has failed us for the better part of the last 20 years. We need to address that. And it doesn't matter if BEL gets to produce the additional electricity or if some private sector person comes forward and does it. We need to have it in order to deliver it to your homes and keep prices the way they are, at least. But our policy has been to seek to maintain rates right where they are. And it's been a challenge to do so, given all these constraints within which we must work. And we're sounding an alarm, we're giving notice that if that isn't set right within the next 12 to 15 months, I think you can expect more than just higher prices.
You mean by more than higher prices, you mean you can expect outages?
Well, you will expect they will have certain instances, certain times when we struggle to meet demand.
The U.S. State Department has issued its report on the trafficking in humans 2023, and Belize retains the rank of Tier 2. According to the U.S. Department of State, Belize has shown significant effort in tackling the issue of human trafficking, but unfortunately, the country has not convicted any traffickers nor have initiated any new cases against suspected traffickers. Additionally, the report states that Belize has not adequately overseen labor recruitment, nor has it investigated allegations of labor trafficking of Indians and the People's Republic of China nationals. While Belize lacked in those areas, the report has given praise for the country's amnesty program, which has seen 4 trafficking victims applied to the program. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams spoke on this matter today, stating that while efforts continue within the department to help combat this age-old problem, he agrees that more can be done.
Well, we cannot prosecute people if they're not caught committing the offense. We can't convict people if they're not before the courts. You see, this whole trafficking issue, it is a complex one. It is not as slam dunk as one would want it to be. We, like the report said, we are making great strides. We are doing what we can to address the issue. But at the same time, we have to understand that prosecuting persons who are suspected of human trafficking do require the cooperation of the persons who are being trafficked. And we find that many a times when we encounter these situations, the people who we believe are being trafficked refuse to cooperate. Say, if they refuse to cooperate with the investigators, then we can't go anywhere. And that's why I would like to see an amendment to the law to say that if you withhold the passport of a person who works with you or an immigrant who is working with you, that itself should constitute an offense. Because many a times the employer has the passport. Why will you have the passport of your employer? It must be to control the person. right? So that should be an offense as far as I am concerned. And I think if that is done, we'll be able to prosecute more people for human trafficking.
Coming up next, house burns down in San Pedro, displacing an entire family. Stay tuned.
If you're lucky, no matter what life hands you, you can always count on your closest friends to be there. Oh, thank you. My purse was exhausted. We are all blissfully unaware when our lives are about to change.
Life is full of surprises.
I'm ready to lose my virginity.
Excuse me?
I got the list.
What list?
There's a whole brouhaha at school about this MILF list.
For real?
Our lunchtime fodder is not usually this lowbrow, I swear.
Really? Who have you been eating with?
It's a big step up for Che and me.
I've been having exit out of grief sex. It's just sex.
Through all the chance you've been out there, men have feelings too.
Life's too short not to try something new. And just like that, I realized some things are better left in the past. But maybe not everything.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Come on!
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, bocadas, chiladas, doradas, delicious for snacking, done right and done here.
Done right, done here.
The 53rd General Assembly of the Organization of American States, OAS, is taking place in Washington, D.C. Discussions will focus on strengthening democracy, protecting human rights and social inclusion, promoting economic cooperation, and enhancing hemispheric and citizen security. The Secretary will also lead OAS member states in affirming commitments made at the 9th Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles in June 2022. At the 53rd General Assembly, the United States will support resolutions to enhance security in Haiti, condemn human rights abuses, and call for dialogue in Nicaragua, and more effectively implement the Inter-American Democratic Charter. The United States will support one of the largest budget increases for the organization in several decades and join a statement expressing continued support for the end of Russia's war against Ukraine. The OAS will also honor former U.S. President Jimmy Carter for his many contributions to the institution and the Americas. On the margins of the OAS General Assembly, the Secretary will chair a ministerial meeting of the Summit Implementation Review Group. Ministers will consider adopting the action plan on health and resilience mandated by leaders at the 9th Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles in June. They will also review implementation progress of commitments from the 9th Summit of the Americas and the Cities Summit of the Americas held in April 2023. On Belize's behalf, Minister of Foreign Affairs Amon Courtney spoke about climate change and its impact to the jewel.
Climate change continues to be our most grave concern. It threatens the very existence of small island developing states and low-lying coastal regions. And this is why, for us in the Global South, COP28 will be a watershed climate change meeting. The technical assessments indicate that global action and current NDCs are not on track to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius objective. The world is presently on a pathway to almost 3 degrees of warming by the end of this century. This will result in a 3-foot rise in mean sea level by 2050, which will result in more than half of Belize City lying underwater and most of our offshore keys submerged. Developed countries have not delivered on their commitment to provide the US $100 billion per year in climate financing to developing countries. The failure of the Global North to deliver on their pledge to provide the financing for adaptation to the most vulnerable countries is a costly betrayal. At COP28, we will have the last chance to agree to submit much more ambitious NDCs in 2025, so as to halve current emissions of greenhouse gas by 2030, together with pledges by the developed countries to provide the adequate resources to assist developing countries to implement their NDCs. At COP28, we expect to see increased support from existing sources to address loss and damage and meaningful progress towards the operationalization of the new financing facility for loss and damage. Mr. President, Belize joins the demand for the early adoption of a multidimensional vulnerability index and reforms to the global financial architecture as captured by the Bridgetown Initiative. We strongly support the call to provide additional financing and debt restructuring to countries struggling to meet the challenges of climate change. We emphasize the urgent need to transform the governance of the international financial institutions to make them more representative, equitable and inclusive, and supportive of the new green imperative.
The flow of undocumented migrants through the Americas also formed part of Courtney's address today.
Early data highlights that between January and March of this year, approximately 87,390 people on their way to the United States of America made a trek through the Darien Gap, one of the most perilous walks on Earth. Belize, located in the middle of the south-north migration route, continues to prioritize migrant and refugee solutions. In the last 2 years, over 650 refugees have been formally recognized through our reactivated asylum process. We are processing some 12,765 applicants who seek to regularize their immigration status pursuant to Amnesty 2022. But no country, Mr. President, can resolve this challenge on its own. Tackling migration requires international cooperation and dialogue to address its root causes such as poverty, climate change, conflict, sanctions, and citizens' insecurity.
Today, the governments of the United States and Belize hosted the foreign ministers from across the Western Hemisphere to commemorate the one-year anniversary of the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection and reaffirm the region's commitment to humane migration management and protection. Mirella Bacab is tonight without a home after she lost it all in an inferno that burned through everything she had worked hard to acquire. The incident happened yesterday in the elevated temperatures of the day on the island of San Pedro town south of the San Pedro airstrip in the DFC area. The unfortunate incident has struck Bacab so hard and has her family in desperate need of help. Anyone who would like to assist the family can call the phone number 628-9628 to speak with Bacab. You can also make direct deposits to Atlantic Bank account registered under the name of Mirella Bacab with account number 211-874-774. Belize, through its National Meteorological Service, NMS, under the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Climate Change, and Disaster Risk Management, has been chosen as one of the first countries worldwide to profit from the World Meteorological Organization's WMO's Systematic Observations Financing Facility, SOFF. The SOFF is an organization that aims at solidifying climate adaptation and resilient development through redefined measurement of the climate and weather parameters. The improvements being made are believed to aid in better weather forecast, dependable early warning systems, and other important climate information services that could save lives and incomes and protect property. The SOFF aims to achieve the goals set by the collection and sharing of the finest surface-based weather and climate measurements in accordance with the internationally agreed global basis observing network moving forward to improve weather and climate prediction products. The SOFF initiative is expected to help Belize by establishing at least one weather station in the country that is taking accurate measurements of surrounding weather conditions at both the surface levels and higher levels and conveying that information to the global weather and climate prediction models. These models will in turn be used by all weather and climate forecasting offices globally, including the NMS. Other potential benefits are the establishment of a human resource institutional capacity of the NMS to nourish its network of weather stations, to provide impact-based weather forecasting and early warnings to the public. This is crucial as the country endeavors to meet the United Nations early warning for all goal by the time of next year or before. Mixed martial arts is a full contact combat sport that has picked up fans and interest as of recent times here in Belize. So much so that Belize is scheduled to be represented in Nicaragua in July 2023. Team Belize will include Israel Vasquez, Coach Silvino Riveral, and MMA Thomas Godfrey, Jalen Perez, and David Blanco. The event is gearing up to bring the best in the region and will make history as it will be the first championship of its kind in Central America. We spoke to a representative from Comisión Nicaragüense de Artes Marciales Mixtas, who will be hosting the event in San Juan del Sur.
Nicaragüense de Artes Marciales Mixtas es el ente regulador de las artes marciales en Nicaragua. Nos encargamos de dirigir el deporte y nosotros, por primera vez en la historia, en conjunto con diferentes organizaciones en Centroamérica, estamos organizando el Campeonato Centroamericano de Artes Marciales Mixtas. La MMA en la región tiene 20 años de existir, pero históricamente esta es la primera vez que vamos a tener reunidos los 7 países de Centroamérica en un solo evento con los mejores peleadores de la región. Belice es parte de Centroamérica y fue importante para nosotros tener la participación de Belice. Que salga bien y que sea el punto de partida para que puedan existir próximamente más eventos como este en la región, que sea después El Salvador o Costa Rica o el mismo Belice haciendo, replicando este tipo de formatos.
Most Central American countries will be sending a delegation to the championship that will be held from July 11 to the 16th, 2023. The long-awaited 2023-2024 lobster season is opening soon. The open lobster season is slated to run July 1st, 2023 to February 29th, 2024. Along with the opening of the season comes the major food festivals in San Pedro, Kikocker, and Placencia, to mention a few. Lobster plays a huge role in the Belizean economy. In fact, Belize exports a whopping $7 million worth of lobster on a yearly basis. The Caribbean spiny lobster follows clear regulations. Minimum carapace length is 3 inches, while from the tail must measure 4 ounces. Here is a reminder that it is illegal to have in possession any soft shell lobster or female with eggs. In fact, it is illegal to remove eggs from any female lobster, spawn, density, or fiber. Failure to comply with the rules governing the season will get a hefty fine or time at the Kobe Foundation. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Monday, June 26th here on CTV3 and Face FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, have a safe and pleasant weekend. Thank you for watching and listening. Good night.